learners, welcome to SWAM online lecture series on the topic database management system. Myself, Mohammad Abdullah Bukhari, working as a professor in the Department of Computer Science, Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh. I am pleased to have you join me today as we explore the fascinating realm of database and database management system. Today I will discuss about the role-based access control. So get ready to enhance your knowledge about database management system with me. In the previous lecture, I have discussed about the MAC, Mandatory Access Control System, advantage of MAC, disadvantage of MAC, and why mandatory access control is used, how is mandatory access control used, and basic principle of mandatory access control, and then the difference between MAC and DAC. Before going to today's agenda, I would like to give the answer of the question which I have given you in the last class. The first question was, explain mandatory access control system. In database management system, MAC is a security model where access to data is controlled by system administrators based on predefined security policies. Users and data objects are assigned security levels, and access decisions are determined by comparing labels against a set of rules. MACs ensure strict enforcement of security policies, limiting users' decision in accessing and modifying data. The next question was, describe the use of MAC. In database management system, mandatory access control is used to enforce strict security policies and protect sensitive data from unauthorized access or modifications. By assigning security levels to users and data objects and defining access rules, MAC ensures that only authorized users can access a specific data based on their clearance level or security classifications. This helps prevent data breaches and maintain confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data. The last question was, what are the advantages of MAC? The advantage of mandatory access control in the database management system include enhanced security and data protections, as access to sensitive information is tightly controlled based on predefined security policies. MAC ensures consistent enforcement of security rules, reducing the risk of unauthorized access or data breaches. Additionally, MAC provides greater granularity in access control, allowing administrator to precisely define access permission based on security classification. Today, agenda is role-based control system. Types of access control. Advantage of role-based control. And then disadvantage of role-based access control. RBAC and ABCA. Implementing role-based access control. This will be the agenda. So come one by one. What is RBCA? You can say RBCA is a mechanism that restricts system access It means unauthorized person cannot access the system. In other words, we can say that role-based access control is known as role-based security. It involves setting permissions and privilege to enable access to unauthorized users. It means unauthorized users cannot access the system access. It means depending on the role in the organizations, it will given a permission and privilege to access the system. Most large organizations use role-based access control to provide their employees with verifying level of access based on the role and responsibility. Role-based access control protect sensitive data and ensure employee can only access information and perform action they need to their job depending on the job facility available to access the employer are able to do. An organization assign a role-based access control role to every employee. The role determine which permission the system grant to the users. We take one example. You can designate whether a user is an administrator, it may be a specialist, or you can say end user, or limit access to a specific resource to task. It means you have to give some limited access to a specific resources or task. An organization may let some individual creates or modify files while providing some only given or some implied to only you can view the data, or you can say, and someone can modify, delete, update, whatever. Role-based control system. One role-based control system example is a set of permissions that allow users to read, edit, and delete articles in the writing application. These are one example I am taking. There are two roles, is the writer and the readers. Their respective permission is granted in the truth table. I'm taking the truth table in that using this truth table you can assign a permission to each user. It means the writer can have access given permission as to edit, he can edit, he can delete, or he can read also, and he can update also, whatever. But the reader you can give permission only to read, not delete. Reader cannot edit also. So this is the one example I have given. Role-based access control example is there. In some cases, organization will grant different level of permission to distinct role and their permission to, and sometime the permission will be overlapped. One role, it means the reader is a subset of the writer in that case, and he has more permission than the reader here. So I am giving a diagram tabular form. I am giving one example for it will be more visual for role-based access control. There the role are there. You can the employee can work as a user, maybe is IT administration. I'm taking a developer, sales consultant, and HR. Okay, there are some roles, activities, corporate networks, email, CRM, customer DB2, Unix, and employees information. Here, user only can give a permission to corporate work. Okay, email can access the email, not CRM, not customer DB, and not Unix, not employee information. User cannot see the information about the employee. The same way IT administration. The IT administration is the main part for that. He is the administrator, he is the owner for that. He has a permission to corporate networks, he can do email, CRM also, customer DB2 also, and the Unix and employee information. It means IT administration can access the information about the information of the employee also. He has the given a permission, or you can say privilege, for all the activity he can do. He can update, delete, whatever he can see of that. But the developer is also one users, as a user can role as a developer. Developer have only corporate network, he has a given permission, and the email, and also on the Unix system, what the system is that, but no employee. If developer wants to see the employee information, he cannot access, he cannot read. By that we are able to improve the security level. Unauthorized person cannot retrieve the informations. So the next is the sale consultant. Also same way, sale consultant cannot see the corporate network. He is not able to read, you can see. Only sales consultant can read the email also, CRM also, and customer database also. No for Unix, no for employee information. HR also can see the corporate networks and give permission to see emails, but not CRM, no permission is no, customer DBT no, Unix no, and employee information yes. HR can see the information about the employees whose employee is working in the department for that in our organization. And that's why large organization use a role-based control system. So there are types of control system. ACL, access control list, is a table listing the permission attached to computing resources. It tells the operating system which user can access an object and which action they can carry out. Like the table in the previous example, you can see like that. There is an entry for each users which is linked to the security attributes of each object. ACL is commonly used for traditional DAC system. RBCA versus ACL. For that, for most business application, RBCA is superior to ACL in terms of security and administrative overheads. So in terms of security, our role-based action control is good for that, superior. ACL is better suited for implementing security at individual user level and low-level data, while RBCA is better served a community and company-wide security system with overseeing administrator also. So it is higher level. ACL can grant write access to a specific file but cannot determine how a user might change the file. So these are about that. The next is the attribute-based access control. Role-based, here the attribute-based role access system. Attribute-based access control evaluates a set of rules and policies to manage access right according to specific attributes such as environmental, system, object, and user information. On the basis of that, the access and manage the access rights depending on the attributes. It applies Boolean logic to grant or deny access to user based on the complex evaluation, atomic or set evaluated attributes and relationship between them. We can say that in particular term, we can say that to write a rule in extensible access control markup language XSCML using key value pairs. Then we'll discuss about the advantage of role-based access control. So these are the 4 advantages of role-based system. The first is simplicity and manageability. The next is enhanced security. How we will enhance the security? By that, if we can improve the security by RBAC, role-based access control. The third is the scalability. It means it is very useful for growing organization. Policy consistency should be maintained. We take an example I have given, you can see on the screen. Simplicity, RBCA simplifies access control by grouping users with similar responsibilities into roles. This makes it easier to manage permission and access level, reducing the complexity of assigning and revoking access system. Enhanced security, it improves the security by ensuring that the user only have access to the resource necessary for its role. Depending on roles, he can access the system. It means by that we are able to minimize the risk of unauthorized person can access the system, and we are able to reduce the potential impact of security breaches. The third is scalability. New users join or roles changes. Administrator can easily assign or modify the role-based permission. It means some new user can join, the role or some user's role has been changed. So the administrator can easily assign or modify role-based permission without having access to individual user permission. So he is able to. That's why it is called scalability. Scalability is a very important part for RBC also. Policy consistency, it means RBAC promotes consistency in access control policies. Permissions are assigned based on roles. If it is a database administrator, it means the developer, it may be users or an employee, depending on that you assign. It is less prone to error compared to managing permission for individual users. So by that we can save the error also. The disadvantage, there are also I am giving by diagram by different colors. Complex role management, role proliferation. Over a time, the number of roles in RBAC system may proliferate, resulting in an extensive list of roles. Complex role management, it may have a number of roles and their associated permission increase. Managing and organizing roles can become more complex. So these are drawbacks: complex role management, role proliferation, and role creep. Role creep occurs when users are assigned more permission than the necessary over a time, either due to change in their job responsibility or a lack of periodic access reviews. So role creep is also there. Limited granularity. RBA might not provide a level of granularity needed for a certain access control scenario. So these are the disadvantages for that. Key components of role-based control system. So there are 5 key components for role-based access. First is the role. What is role? Is the permission. Role assignment. Role hierarchy. Role hierarchy means it will work like on a tree structure. It is parent-child concept. Role activation. Permission assignment. So come one by one. Role. In role-based access control within database management system, a role is a predefined collection of permissions. It is a predefined collection of permission that delineates a specific set of action or operation permissible within the system. Roles typically represent a distinct job functions, responsibilities, organizational role within the entity. For instance, role such as manager, it may be role, employee as administrator also, and the analyst embody different level of access based on the requirement of the corresponding positions. We have to give a different level of permission given to manager, employee, administrator, or analyst. Instead of assigning permission directly to individual, administrator associate users with role, granting them access to the permission. Administrator gave a permission to all the employees depending on the roles. This abstraction simplifies access control management by enabling administrators to manage permission at the role level, facilitating scalability and the maintainability. The next is role assignment. Role assignment is a role-based access control within database management system. Is the practice of linking user to predefined roles that encapsulate the set of permissions corresponding to a specific job function or responsibility. This process simplifies access management by categorizing users based on their access requirement and organization roles. Administrator, security personnel determine the appropriate role for each user based on the factor such as their job, title, department, and in which department working, what are the type of job, and depending on that, they will administrator determine the appropriate roles. Users are then assigned to these roles, granting them access to the permission associated with those roles. By abstracting permission into roles, role assignment enable administrator to manage access control more efficiently and consistently. So role assignment will improve the, you can say, efficiency. It streamlines the provisioning and deprovisioning of user access. The next is role hierarchy. Role hierarchy in role-based access control within database management system is a hierarchical structure that organizes role into a parent-child relationship based on the role of authority or privilege. It means based on the tree structure, you can say. Only, it means here the only one is the root, and there are different type branches. All are in a hierarchy level, all the privilege has given more privilege, and sub level contain the you can say privilege from the first level and to second level also. In hierarchy, higher level roles have broader set of permissions, while lower level roles inherit permissions from the higher level roles. This arrangement simplifies access control management by establishing a structure frame for role inherent and delegations. It means the broader permissions have a higher level, and lower level inherits the permission from the higher level. For example, I have taken one example on the screen. You can see the administrator role might encompasses extensive administrative privilege, while subordinate role like supervisor, employee inherit a subset of those permissions. Role hierarchy enhances scalability and maintenance by reducing the number of roles that needed to be managed individually. So by that role hierarchy play a very vital role for defining that. It also ensures the consistency in access control. Similar roles within the organization, as changes made to parent role automatically propagate to child role. If we will change role in the parent role, it will change, some changes will there, automatically it will propagate to child role. Next is role activation. Role activation in role-based access control within database management system refers to the process of enabling and disabling a specific role for individual user based on their current task, responsibility, and organization. Depending on the role will be changed for the individual on their current task responsibility. It may be activated or deactivated. It means be invoke or re-invoke. Invoking we can enable or disable the specific roles for the. So this is the process for by the role-based access control. So role activation is also very important for any organizations. This dynamic approach to access control allows user to temporarily assume role as needed, granting them access to corresponding set of permissions required to perform their duties effectively. We take an example. A user may activate the administrator role temporarily to perform administrative tasks such as database database maintenance or user management. Role activation ensures that the user have access to appropriate permissions only when necessary and minimizing the risk of unauthorized access and enhancing security. It means by that we are able to enhance the security, and unauthorized person cannot take the information from sensitive data, the protect data. So we are able to, by that we have to minimize the risk of unauthorized access to the system. Next is permission assignment. Permission assignment in role-based access control within database management system involves the process of associating a specific permission with roles based on the access requirement of the corresponding job function or responsibility. This process defines an action or operation that user assigned to each role are authorized to perform within the system. Administrator or security personnel determines which permission are needed for each roles. Depending on the administrator or security personnel determines which permission are given to each role. There are some factors. Depending on factors, the responsibility, the administrator or security person determines our permissions. Once permission is identified, they are assigned to appropriate roles, ensuring that user assigned to those roles inherit the corresponding set of permissions. Permission assignment simplifies access control management by abstracting permission away from individual users or grouping them into roles, which can then be assigned to users based on their access requirements. These are the permission assignment. Then we'll discuss about RBAC versus ABCA, role-based access control versus attribute-based control system. The role-based access control, it means role-based access control relies on the predefined roles. Attribute-based access control is more dynamic and uses relation-based access control. You can use RBAC to determine access control with broad strokes, while attributes-based access control offers more granularity. For example, you can see on the screen, RBAC system grant access to all the managers, but attributes-based access control policy will only grant access to managers that are in financial department. Attribute-based access control execute a more complex search which require more processing power and time. You should only reset to ABC when RBC is insufficient. Then how you will implement the role-based access control? This is the main part for that. The role-based access control allows organization to improve their security postures. By that, our role-based access control, in other words, it is a model to, you can say, role-based security, you can say. It will improve the security posture and comply with security regulations. Implementing role-based access control across the entire organization can be complex and may result in pushback from stakeholders. To succeed in your move to RBAC, you should treat the implementation process as a series of steps we discuss. Understanding your business needs. Before you move to RBCA, you should run a comprehensive need analysis to examine job function, supporting business process and technology. You have to analyze for that. Then after, you should also consider and regulatory and audit requirements and assess the current security posture of your organization. You have to analyze which type of security posture are available in your organization. Then planning the scope of implementation. Here you have to identify the scope of RBAC requirement and plan the implementation to align with the organization needs. The last step, narrow your scope to focus on the system or application that stores sensitive data. The next is the defining role. It will be easier to define your role once you have performed the needs analysis and understand how individuals perform their task. Watch out the common role design pitfall like excessive or inefficient granularity, role overlaps, and granting too many exceptions for role-based access control permission. The last is implementation steps. The final phase involves rolling out the role-based access control. Do this in this stage to avoid overwhelming workload and reduce disruption to the business. Address a core group of users. Start with coarse-grained across control before increasing granularity. Collect feedbacks from the users. You have to collect the feedback from the users and monitor your environment to plan the next stage of implementation. In this way, we are able to implement. Now, test your knowledge by giving us some thought-provoking questions on this topic today discussed here. Your answer will not only reinforce your knowledge but also improve your learning, and you have to do the assignment. After that, you are able to revise lectures. So, the first question I am giving you explain the role-based access control. The next question is what are the types of access control. Next is what are the advantages of role-based control system. As we wrapped up today's lectures, I believe that the discussion on the security level role-based access control will improve or it will enhance your knowledge about the database management system that is applicable to database management system knowledge. Thank you for active anticipations.